Can a single mistake bring down a global superpower? In the mid-20th century, the British Empire was a force to be reckoned with. Its flag flew over a quarter of the world's landmass, and its influence was felt on every continent. Yet, just a few decades later, this vast empire had all but vanished. What happened? Some say the end came not with a bang, but with a single, colossal miscalculation, a moment of imperial hubris that shattered its prestige and signaled its downfall. Today, we're going to explore that moment, the Suez Crisis, and ask a chilling question. Is America on the verge of making its own Suez mistake? Let's rewind to the 1950s. The world was a chessboard of Cold War politics, and at its heart was a vital artery of global trade, the Suez Canal. This 120-mile waterway in Egypt was the lifeline of the British Empire, a shortcut connecting Europe to its colonies and oil supplies in the east. For Britain, controlling the canal wasn't just about trade, it was a symbol of its enduring global power. But the world was changing. A wave of nationalism was sweeping across the Middle East, and in Egypt, a charismatic leader, Gamal Abdel Nasser, rose to power. Nasser dreamed of a modern, independent Egypt, free from foreign control. In 1956, he made a bold move. To fund his ambitious Aswan High Dam project, Nasser nationalized the Suez Canal, seizing it from the British and French companies that had controlled it for nearly a century. The reaction in London and Paris was one of shock and outrage. British Prime Minister Anthony Eden, a man steeped in the tradition of empire, saw Nasser as a new Mussolini, a dictator who had to be stopped. To him, losing the canal was unthinkable. It wasn't just about oil, it was about national pride and Britain's place in the world. Losing Suez meant accepting that Britain was no longer a top-tier power. So, in the shadows, a plan was hatched. Britain, France, and the newly formed State of Israel forged a secret pact. The plan was a classic piece of colonial-era gunboat diplomacy. Israel would invade Egypt's Sinai Peninsula, creating a pretext for Britain and France to intervene as peacekeepers, swoop in, and retake the canal. It seemed like a foolproof plan, a quick, decisive action to put Nasser back in his place and reassert Western dominance. In late October 1956, the operation began. Israeli forces pushed into Sinai, and British and French paratroopers landed in the canal zone. Militarily, it was a success, but politically, it was a catastrophe. What Eden and his allies had completely misjudged was the reaction of the world's new heavyweight champion, the United States. President Dwight Eisenhower was furious. He was in the middle of a re-election campaign and had been kept in the dark by his closest allies. More importantly, he saw the invasion as a reckless colonial adventure that could push the entire Arab world into the arms of the Soviet Union. This was the height of the Cold War, and Eisenhower was not about to let his allies start a potential World War III over an old-world obsession with empire. The American response was swift and brutal. Eisenhower used America's immense financial leverage against its own ally. He threatened to sell off the US government's massive holdings of British pound sterling bonds. This would have triggered a collapse in the value of the British currency and shattered the UK's already fragile post-war economy. The message was clear: stop, or we will bankrupt you. Facing financial ruin and total diplomatic isolation, a humiliated Prime Minister Eden had no choice. He called off the invasion and ordered a complete withdrawal. The Suez Crisis was over in a matter of days, but the fallout was permanent. It was a public, agonizing humiliation for Great Britain. The world saw that Britain could no longer act independently on the world stage without the approval of the United States. Its superpower status, already fading, was gone for good. The lion had lost its roar. The Suez Crisis became a textbook example of how a nation's overestimation of its own power and its failure to adapt to a changing world can lead to a sudden, irreversible decline. It was the empire's final, fatal gamble. Now, let's fast forward to today. The global chessboard looks very different, but some of the pieces are eerily familiar. The United States has been the undisputed global superpower since the end of the Cold War. Its military is unparalleled, its culture is global, and the US dollar is the engine of the world economy. But, just like Britain in the 1950s, America is facing a world in flux. New powers, like China, are rising, economic tensions are simmering, and traditional alliances are being questioned. Challenges to US dominance are no longer whispered, they're openly discussed in capitals from Beijing to Brussels. Is the United States immune to the same kind of hubris that brought down the British Empire? Let's imagine a speculative crisis, a hypothetical American Suez unfolding, say, by the year 2026. This isn't a prophecy, but a thought experiment based on current trends. The trigger might not be a canal, but something more modern. Perhaps it's an escalating trade war that spirals out of control. Imagine the US, trying to protect its economic interests, imposes a massive, unilateral package of tariffs and financial sanctions on a major economic bloc. Or maybe it's a regional military dispute where America, against the advice of its allies, intervenes aggressively, believing its military might can quickly resolve the issue. The key element, just like with Suez, is unilateral action driven by a belief in one's own exceptionalism and a failure to appreciate the shifting global landscape. In this hypothetical scenario, the world doesn't just protest, it acts. Major trading nations, fed up with the dollar's use as a tool of American foreign policy, accelerate their plans to create alternative payment systems. They start trading oil, gas, and other critical commodities in their own currencies, bypassing the US financial system entirely. A coalition of nations, including some traditional American allies, publicly condemns the US action at the United Nations and imposes retaliatory measures. The consequence, the trust that underpins America's global leadership evaporates. The overextension, whether economic or military, backfires spectacularly. The dollar's status as the world's primary reserve currency, the ultimate source of American power, begins to seriously erode. We wouldn't see an overnight collapse, but a rapid, undeniable decline. International institutions might start relocating away from the US. New power blocks, once theoretical, would solidify into concrete alliances. Creating a truly multipolar world, America wouldn't cease to be a major power, but it would lose its unique ability to set the global agenda. It would become just one powerful nation among several, forced to negotiate and compromise in a way it hasn't had to for generations. It would have had its Suez moment, a self-inflicted wound from which its status as the sole superpower could never recover. The story of the Suez Crisis is more than just a history lesson. It's a timeless warning about the arrogance of power. It shows how quickly the world can turn against a leader that overplays its hand and ignores the changing tides. The British Empire didn't fall because it was weak. It fell because it failed to recognize it was no longer the only major player on the field. It made a final, desperate gamble based on an outdated view of the world, and lost everything. Today, America stands at a similar crossroads, facing a complex new world with rising challengers and shifting alliances. The temptation to act alone, to believe that its power is absolute and its judgment is infallible, is always there. The question we are left with is a profound one. Has America learned the lesson of history? Can it navigate the challenges of the 21st century with wisdom and restraint? Or is it destined to one day make its own final, fatal mistake? The answer will define the world for generations to come. Thank you for watching. If you found this interesting, please like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces that shape our world.